You are listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast with Maggie Green, episode number 361.
Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast, a podcast that celebrates cookbook readers, buyers, collectors, writers, and clubs. And now your host, cookbook author, culinary dietitian, and cookbook writing coach, Maggie Green.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. How's everybody doing today? Hope you are all doing well. As always, we are doing great here in Kentucky. Just returned from a trip to the beach. We had a wonderful time, and I'm getting ready for Recipe Week next week. In case you haven't heard, Recipe Week is a 5-day live training for aspiring cookbook authors who want to learn more about turning your cooking and baking passions into publishable recipes. This training will begin on Monday, August the 11th. We will meet every day through Friday, August the 15th, and we are going to talk all about recipe copyright law, recipe writing, recipe development, and recipe testing. By the end of this week, you will have a great overview of what it means to be a recipe writer, to how to make recipes your own, and how to ensure that you're not using or copying anyone else's recipes for your cookbook publishing projects. So I'd love to have you join us. If you want to read more about it, head on over to www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/recipe week 2025, and you can read all about the week we're going to have and get your ticket today. So today on the show, I'm excited to have an interview with Ellen Canner. Ellen is also known as the Soulful Vegan. She is the author of Miami Vegan, Plant-Based Recipes from the Tropics to Your Table, and also the award-winning book, Feeding the Hungry Ghost, Life, Faith, and What to Eat for Dinner. Ellen writes about the intersection of food, culture, community, and wellness for outlets including HuffPost, VegNews, and Edible South Florida. She is a vegan advocate and culinary instructor and creator of the Substack newsletter Broccoli Rising. As a fifth-generation Miami native, Ellen and I talk all about the natural beauty and wonders of Miami, her life as a vegan, her beautiful new book, Miami Vegan, including everything from tropical fruits and vegetables in Miami, vegan food swaps and ingredients, as well as perhaps an unpopular opinion that Ellen is going to share all about how to include more vegetables in your diet. So without further delay, let's dive into this interview with Ellen Canner. Hi, Ellen. Welcome to the Cookbook Love Podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Maggie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming. And before we get started, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, I am the author of the new cookbook, Miami Vegan, Plant-Based Recipes from the Tropics to Your Table. And I am that oddity, a fifth-generation Miamian and a longtime vegan. So I was really glad to bring both these elements together in this cookbook. I have written for Edible South Florida, VegNews, HuffPost, Saveur, a bunch of other publications, but I'm very passionate about being vegan, and I love the tropical aspects of Miami and our cultural mix and cultural cuisines. And so I wanted to bring that to you.
Yeah. So before we talk about the book and the vegan part, let's talk about the Miami part. I don't think I've ever had anyone on the show who's a fifth generation from anywhere, at least that they've told me. And also to be in Miami for 5 generations, that's a long time.
It is, because Miami prides itself on being like new and now. And I remember my father saying, boy, if you had plopped me down here, I would not recognize it. Because we do like bling and we like flash. But to me, what's really sexy about Miami is what was here before all that, like being able to pick a mango right off the tree, beautiful seabirds, beautiful shoreline, And I want to preserve that. I find that very sexy.
Yeah, it is a beautiful spot. And I think something that we fail to realize about Miami, unless you've maybe been there or really, put some time into thinking about it, is the tropical weather. Tell us a little bit about the seasonality of Miami.
I joke there's really only two seasons, hurricane and tourist. Um, but with climate change, maybe that's changing a little bit. When it starts to be like a little frosty almost everywhere else in the country, that's when, like October, that's when the humidity lifts and that's when the tourists come because it's gorgeous, like from October to March or April. And then things start to heat up. I know probably where you are, you're getting all your wonderful summer vegetables and fruits. My collards are burning up. I'm going to have to pick them. Um, but now is when we get like really sexy tropical produce. This is mango season, avocado season, lychee season, carambola. So we do things a little different in Miami.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes we think if we're writing a cookbook in the US and it's for a US audience, our seasons are just like all very similar. If I talk about tomatoes in July or August, it would make sense everywhere, but that's not true when we're talking about Miami.
It's true. I had a friend from Georgia who moved down and he was trying so hard to garden like he used to. And he said, it's not working. I said, honey, it's not you. You can't fight nature.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I want to grow tomatoes, when do I do it?
January.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And I think that it is gorgeous down there in the wintertime. And it's hard to even believe that you're still in the continental United States. And
I kind of love that about us, though.
I do too. And I agree with you that what is natural about Miami is the beauty of it. You mentioned the water, the weather, the tropical fruit, and it's very multicultural. And it's a wonderful place. And I'm excited to have a book and to share this aspect of cooking that has such not just a regional focus, but really a city focus and a whole different way of thinking about food. In addition to Miami, though, we're going to talk about being vegan. And you have been vegan for a while also.
Yeah, long before it was cool, before there were celebrity vegans, before there was the wall of plant-based milk in your supermarket. So it forced me to be creative. And I'm also a big believer in using what you have. And using what I have right here can be pretty terrific. Maybe that's what got me geared to loving tropical produce as much as I do.
Yeah. And I think that it shines through in the book. And I'd love to talk a little bit more about the book and tell us about its writing, its publication, how you thought of the idea, and a little bit more about, the beginnings of it.
It was a COVID project. I had presentations and cooking classes booked up to the end of the year. And then, of course, everything shut down. And I don't know if we can say this on your show, but I was pissed. And I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, a friend of mine said, write another cookbook. And I was like, does the world need another vegan cookbook? And I thought, well, what else am I going to do? And so I started putting together recipes and again, using what I had at hand, because really we didn't want to do a whole lot of shopping then. So it came together and it was fun. I didn't think it was going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you have some ways of thinking about vegan cooking that are different. First of all, being a vegan, like this has been a way of life for you for a long time.
Yeah. So I don't have to agonize about it as many new vegans do. I say, it's like any practice. There's a certain degree of mindfulness you have to bring to it. But once you get it, you got it. I know there are some tremendous commercial vegan products on the market out there, which did not exist when I first went vegan. But really what I love are real fruits and vegetables, are beans and rice. I say rice and beans are my love language because you can build so much from them. I like the produce to sing, to be the star.
Yeah. And there's tons of unique produce and lots of different recipes in the book because of Miami.
Yeah, but I really wanted to make these doable wherever you live. A lot of it is just the flavor, how that is created. Sometimes it's layering spice. Sometimes it's a sofrito, a saute of vegetables, which builds so much more flavor than you'd even imagine. So you can do this almost anywhere you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's important for people to hear and to realize is that if they were to use the book, use the recipes in it, they can get the flavors of Miami anywhere that they live.
That was super important to me. And also, I've had a number of people test these recipes because, everyone's oven is different. Everyone's, until it looks done, sense is different. So I've had home cooks test it. I've had caterers and pro chefs. And it's a great relief and pleasure to know these recipes hold up.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing to highlight. And, any good cookbook should have a testing phase to it. And it's great to hear that yours did. And I thought in writing cookbooks, I always thought that part of it's a little, it's a process. You got to get testers involved. But I thought that it was always kind of fun to hear what people thought about the food in advance of the book being published.
It's true. That was sort of a surprise pleasure. One of my testers has 3 grandchildren, I think between the ages of 4 and 12. And one of the recipes, sancocho, which is a Latin tuber-driven stew, is their favorite thing. And it's her favorite thing too, because she can make a whole pot of it and sort of parcel it out during the week. And it's not a struggle.
Yeah. And I think that those types of things are great things to have on hand, great things to know how to make, and the testers can learn a lot. So if you're ever offered an opportunity to test for cookbooks, it's a great way to engage with recipes with an upcoming project and get to know a cookbook author. And I think it's always a lot of fun.
It is and you feel like you're part of the process because you really are.
Yes, you really are. I mean, and I think that it's surprising to me how many testers wanted to do more recipes. They so enjoyed it that they said, sure, send me more. One of the things that you have some different philosophies about vegan cooking. And the first one is, let's talk about sneaking vegetables into food. This may be an unpopular opinion, but one of your pet peeves, evidently, is not about sneaking the vegetables in. Let's talk a little bit about that because so many philosophies about vegetable cookery have to do with the sneaking them in.
Do you remember about 10 years ago, there was a whole bunch of cookbooks or articles about, sneaking vegetables into food was a great way to, to sneak some vegetables into people because they won't eat them otherwise. Maybe you just need to let the vegetables do what they do best. And you're not sneaking, you're enhancing. I always tell people, oh no, there's spinach in here. There's tofu in here. There's applesauce in here. This is kind of what makes it great.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also sometimes the hesitation is more because something might be unfamiliar than the fact that people maybe don't necessarily like it. And unfamiliar doesn't mean that it's not going to taste good. It's just gives you a chance to explore something new, try something different. I always thought about this when I would subscribe to a box of CSA box, when I would get a share of vegetables from a farm here in Kentucky. And you never really knew what you were going to get. But it was such an opportunity to try new things. And I think with a book like this, new flavor profiles, maybe some new vegetables prepared in a different way, such a great opportunity for something different.
Oh, thank you. I think it does help to make things fresh that way. And it's not such a big reach either. One of the things I researched before starting this book was like, what are cookbook trends? And after COVID, there were 2 things. People were desperate to get out. So they wanted different flavors from different parts of the world. And that was always something I loved about regional cookbooks.
Yeah.
But they also wanted comfort food. So I try to give people comfortable food in new ways.
Yeah. And I think that you talk about a few of the recipes. Like when we think about sneaking, spinach is a perfect example. When I was growing up, spinach was always equated with like a can and Popeye and terrible flavor, usually paired with like something like liver and onions. Tell us about
Ooh.
spinach and what you think from your perspective about the types of foods it really pairs well with, what recipes you might use it in, and how it can really shine in the cooking that we do.
It is such a benevolent and easy to work with vegetable. It is a light, light green. I have a friend who texted me in a panic last night and she said, I don't know what's wrong with the pasta I made. It's boring. I said, have you got some spinach? Just add a handful at the end. It will wilt into the heat of the pasta. It will not bother you. I also use it as a base for a spinach and quinoa salad with a citrus dressing. It's so nice and light and fluffy. You can do a bazillion things with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's really true. What about other vegetables? Anything in the book that comes to mind? Different types of roots or tubers or any types of vegetables you particularly tried to highlight? I mean, of course, it's
Well,
all vegetables, but I'm talking about, specifically about the things that people might buy as a vegetable at the supermarket or at the farmer's market.
well, you mentioned, trying to get out of your comfort zone. Latin and Caribbean cooking uses a lot of rooty vegetables. There's malanga, there's cassava, and they're all in my supermarket. And you hold up this thing that looks like a piece of petrified wood and think, what do I do with this? And it's really kind of fun to find out. They also get incredibly tender when you slow cook them. And they've got some natural sweetness to them or starchiness. Plantains, which look like big chunky bananas, they have two lives. When they're green, they're vegetal. And when they're falling apart to the point that they're black and ugly and you think you should throw them out, then they're meltingly sweet. It's really cool.
You can use them at both ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I think with like bananas, it's probably true of that too, but I think that green bananas are not often used as much. And brown bananas, people, I think, well, you got to use them for something like banana bread. It's like this perfect type of banana right in the middle. But it's nice to hear that with plantains, you have a little bit more width, it seems like, on the food.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's used so much in both Latin and Caribbean cuisine. Um, you can mash it while it's green with a lot of garlic, and that is a big Puerto Rican dish. Um, it just sort of expands your notion of what you can do with different things.
Yeah. You mentioned beans and rice. What types of beans and what style of rice?
I'm a big believer in brown rice. I know a lot of Latin restaurants, white is the go-to, but I love fiber.
Yep.
I love whole foods. And I actually love the nuttiness that brown rice brings. Um, you get more nutrients, you get a little more oomphy flavor, and it's very, very versatile. And so I'm a big believer too in the rule of one, like the idea of maybe going wholly vegan or wholly, whole food, plant-based at the beginning is like, oh, Bambi in the headlights. So I'm a big believer in the rule of one. Try one thing.
Yeah.
Try brown rice instead of white. Get your mouth used to it. Put your toe in gently.
Yeah. And I think it's a great way to ease your way in. Something else you love to talk about is vegan swaps to adapt any recipe, things that we can swap in as we're starting to make these changes, perhaps one by one. Give us some other ideas along those lines.
Okay. I think one of the easiest now is oat milk for dairy milk. I had sort of been an almond milk person for a while, and it's okay. I wish it tasted more almondy. And when oat milk came on the market, I'd had homemade oat milk before, and it was okay. Yeah, I guess you could call that milk, but commercial oat milk is so creamy, and it works great in baking. It works great in coffee. It's such an easy switch for my gluten-sensitive friends. There are some great bean pastas out there. I had also been like, are we sure? Because I love it. I love a nice Durham pasta too. But yeah, there are some high-performing bean pastas out there, and I find that super exciting. There are certainly, where do you get your protein as a vegan? Beans are the best place. And if you don't love the idea of introducing beans in your diet, bean pasta is an easy way in.
Yes, yes. Any tips about cooking bean pasta? I've had different brands that I've bought, and I think you're right about that. Some do seem to produce a better result than other brands. Or maybe it's the type of bean. I'm not really sure.
No, you're right. It's the brand. And it's not quite the same as cooking regular pasta. Like there can be froth,
Mhm.
and that can be alarming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can use those also in cold applications if you were to drain the
Yeah,
pasta, rinse it off, use it in a salad, or keep it in the refrigerator to reheat. Sometimes people like to prep things like pasta or grains ahead of time.
that's a great thing. And I find bean pasta holds up better that way than regular pasta. It doesn't get as kind of gummy.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we have brown rice, oat milk, bean pasta. You mentioned beans, and you're talking about like canned legume type of beans, black beans, chickpeas, um, all those
Uh,
types of beans.
they're all good. Every kind of bean is good. Every kind of bean is kind of like people, they have their own flavor, they have their own personality. Um, I love cooking dried beans from scratch. They are super economical, they are pantry friendly, but I also know we are often short of time and patience. So canned beans work great. And if you get canned chickpeas, you also get aquafaba. You get it right there in the can. Aquafaba is the liquid in a can of chickpeas, and you're talking vegan swaps. Aquafaba is a brilliant substitute for eggs. Again, this was very weird for me when it came out, and I thought, I'm just going to sort of wait and see how this one goes. But it's great. It's great in baking. It's great to make mousses. I have a couple dessert recipes in the book that absolutely rely on it. It whips beautifully. I love this stuff. And then you get the chickpeas and make hummus. It's fantastic.
Yeah, some of your desserts look really good. Coconut shortbread, there's a mango mousse.
Both
Um,
of those are real tester faves.
yeah, yeah. I mean, who doesn't love shortbread? I think cookies are one of my things. There's an orange scented almond cookie. And then tell us about the cake, the triple gingerbread.
Well, I think we associate gingerbread with Hansel and Gretel and Christmas. But ginger grows in the tropics. It is a rhizome, which is sort of like a root, but not. It is super hardy. You cannot destroy it. It has a very pretty big, blousy bloom, too. So I kind of leaned into the tropical here. It's it's got dried ginger, it's got powdered ginger, it's got crystallized ginger, and fresh. It is a very punchy gingerbread. It's sticky, it's sweet, it sticks around if you keep it covered and refrigerated. It's a goodie.
Yeah.
My husband really prefers gooier desserts. I love this gingerbread.
Yeah, I think I love cakes too. So there's an ingredient in here that I wanted to talk about because one of the things that you're really good at explaining to people are the different ingredients that you would use in vegan cooking. For example, the aquafaba, which is the juice or the liquid from chickpeas, which incidentally, I have a question about that. That's not the liquid from any beans, correct?
Um, yes and no. I think you can use different the cooking liquid from different beans. However, it's not standard when you do it yourself. And at least with a can of chickpeas, you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use the cooking liquid from any bean I've been cooking, but I also have a tendency to season my beans with garlic or a bay leaf beforehand, and maybe I don't want that in my dessert.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something about the canned chickpeas and the aquafaba from that is pretty consistent across the board to get the results that you would want as an egg replacement. So I think it's wonderful. And it is a good reason to have the canned chickpeas on hand. Let's talk about evaporated cane sugar. That's one of the ingredients in the triple gingerbread. What is that, and why would I want to use that over another type of sugar?
Well, first of all, we have too much processed sugar in our diet. Here's a stat that kind of annoyed me. I think we eat 17 pounds of beans per person. That might even be high, but we eat 100 pounds of sugar a year. That does not add up. Evaporated cane sugar is also sugar, but it is much less processed. And one of the weird things about food processing is the way foods are processed. Sugar can actually be refined through something called bone char. That is way not vegan. That is an animal derivative. Evaporated cane sugar's golden. It's a little grainier of grain, but it works exactly like sugar in baking.
Yeah.
So it's vegan friendly, it's animal friendly.
And you just put it in the recipe, just like other sugar and all of your desserts in here that would call for it. I mean, I haven't tasted them yet. The photos look delicious. Looks like you get excellent results. And I think it's worth a try if someone is trying to, again, start these swaps where they're going from maybe a regular sugar to the evaporated cane sugar. There's some other
And
things.
You should see it right in your grocery store. It should be right next to the white sugar.
It's one thing I've noticed in a lot of grocery stores. I tend to shop in general on a regular basis, pretty much at the same place. But even at that store, the availability of different ingredients has just exploded over the past several years.
Hallelujah.
I know. It's amazing. You can get these ingredients and this store too, they're no longer like relegated to a little side aisle in the store. They're just right with everything else.
That is a great thing about vegan in numbers. I don't think these companies are doing that because they love us. They are doing it because this is what people want and this is what people will buy. Correct. So I love that.
Yeah, it is really neat and I think I'm kind of a geek about the grocery store anyway, but to be able to stand in front of just say the sugar section, and this isn't even the liquid sugars, and to look at all the different choices that are available, it's really pretty amazing.
Agreed. And very heartening. It used to be that I felt like a forager, that I would have to go to this market and that market and go across town to get this particular ingredient. It's much easier now.
When did you really start to see that shift? I mean, I know personally for me, not as a vegan, when I started to see it in my own supermarket, but when did it start to feel different for you?
For some reason, I'm going to say 7 years ago. I'm not sure why it's not 9, but that seems to have been a tipping point. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the impetus was, other than the fact that manufacturers were seeing there's a need for it. There's been such a bump in commercial vegan products. There is a real market for it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, some other ingredients. So let's demystify a little bit. What's jackfruit? Tell us about that.
Oh, this is one funky fruit. And one funky fruit that could feed probably everyone on my block. It is big, yellow and spiky. And it's another one that leads 2 lives. When it's green, it's very vegetal. And I think you can even find jackfruit in stores now that's been cleaned and processed and spiced. So it's, barbecued jackfruit or Mexican spiced jackfruit, which is great. It's vegan. It has a very, very meaty feel. When it's golden, it's very sweet. It's very strange. But I love that it leads two lives.
Yes, yes. And when you use it in your book and you're using it for a savory application,
we want green.
Yeah, and you want the green. And do you buy the green and prepare it from the fruit? How do you handle the fruit, and what do you do to get the pulp out to use in the recipe?
Okay, this is where it gets a little scary. If it's spiky and strange on the outside, on the inside, it can kind of look like alien. It's got weird pockets of things, and it can have a latex flavor. It's not as widely available as I would like, which is why my one fantastic jackfruit recipe in the book also says, okay, you can use tempeh, you can also use tofu. I was really hoping, and I'm still hoping, that green jackfruit, unflavored, so you can use it for other things, is going to be more widely available. And in fact, I know one startup company that's starting to do that. And it's a super sustainable fruit too, which is another thing I love, because not only should it feed all of us, it should help the planet too. I'm a big one for multitasking.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, we'll keep and I would suspect, now I don't know that's for sure. Like if I wanted to go find jackfruit today, I probably could go to a supermarket up in Cincinnati called Jungle Gyms. They have a very extensive produce section, and they maybe would have fresh jackfruit. But I can buy the can then and still successfully use that, I believe, in a lot of vegan recipes.
I think so too. Often it's packed in brine, so just rinse it off.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Next we have tempeh and tofu. A lot of people are maybe familiar with these, but let's talk about them separately. Let's start with tempeh. It's probably maybe the one that's the least familiar of the two. But tell us a little bit about your take on tempeh.
Again, another fantastic meat substitute. Like tofu, it is, I'm like drawing it in the air like you can see it. It is a fermented bean cake with a kind of nubbly texture, and it already has a kind of meaty chew to it. It's an Indonesian in origin. So okay, smother it in peanut sauce and you've got yourself a treat. But you can also, I have a recipe where you can do like a house smoked tempeh, which you can do on the stovetop. There's no smoking. It's very easy. It's very, very versatile. My husband, who is still on the fence about tofu, loves tempeh because you can do so many things to it. Actually, both tempeh and tofu are like pasta or like potatoes. They're white slates you can do anything with. They're a blank canvas.
Yeah.
So anything you cook them with, they're just going to soak up that flavor.
One of the recipes that I looked up tempeh in is the smoked sea dip. Now, if anybody's been to Florida or in the Miami area, you know that smoked fish dip is very popular. So tell us about the smoked sea dip, because I think I'm going to have to try this.
5 ingredients, 5 minutes. It's a breeze. And in fact, I am demoing that this weekend for a class because I really want people who are visiting from out of town to know what these flavors are. You're right. This is like at every Miami bar or tiki hut on the way down to the Keys. It's a creamy smoked fish dip. Well, how could I do that without the fish? All these flavors are not that hard to put together. I get the fishiness, the fishy flavor with another kind of seafood, nori. That's the the seaweed you usually see wrapped as a sushi wrap. It has a wonderful briny taste all by itself. So I have that. I have tempeh. I have artichoke hearts, because they kind of give that umphy, fishy, texture. Let's see what else is in there. Vegan mayonnaise, and I think maybe a squeeze of lime juice and some liquid smoke. whoomp all that in the food processor for 5 minutes. No, just a couple minutes, really. And it's very like smoked fish dip, to the point that my husband and all my guy friends love it, but it's like a little too close tasting to the real thing for me. But everyone loves it.
Yes. Yes. So not one of your particular favorites.
It isn't as far as it's a successful recipe. It does what it is supposed to do. But like, what am I going to eat for lunch? Not that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about writing cookbooks is you wanted to embrace Miami. And like you said, everywhere you go, the tiki hut along the way, they're going to have it. So and I think this is important for people to think about if you're writing a cookbook, it's not always, especially a regional one, it's not always things that you like make all the time. You just adore them, but you have made a recipe here for something that is very commonly found in Miami. People order it, they know what it is, and now it's a vegan option for them to be able to do that. Pimento cheese is another one that you have in here, and this is interesting to me too, because this tends to creep out of Miami a little bit more into the southern region of the United States, often called the peanut butter of the South. Tell us how you make your vegan pimento cheese.
Well, you have to remember that while we are very obviously Caribbean and Latin, we're also still part of the South. There's still people who call it Miami. So I wanted to honor that a little bit too. And I think it must have been a visiting Southern friend who prompted that. And she said, "Oh man, you gotta, where can I get some pimento cheese?" I'm like, "Oh my God, it's cheese and mayonnaise. Why is this a good idea?" But I wanted to honor the taste that was comforting and comfortable to her. So there's no cheese in this, but there are cashews. Soft soaked cashews are amazingly creamy. So I soak them, I blend them with nutritional yeast, which is another ingredient that if you're going to be vegan, you need to have. It is an amazingly cheesy tasting yeast. It's not funky. It is a great flavor builder.
Yeah.
And pimento, because you can't make pimento without pimento cheese.
Correct. So you use the cashews, the nutritional yeast, the pimento, and looks like you soften the cashews up, whirl them in the food processor, add the other ingredients, and you have a nice pimento cheese that is vegan. But interestingly enough, I've noticed in a lot of your recipes that you're not using like vegan cheeses, vegan cream cheese, things like that. You really, truly plant-based cooking.
I try to, and I also say in the intro, look, if you love vegan meats, add them. This has to please you. But I also want you to see what you can do without all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's great. All right, one more ingredient that we haven't specifically talked about, although we've mentioned it, is tofu. And this is probably the ingredient that comes to mind for a lot of people when they think about vegan cooking and eating. Tell us about tofu from your perspective.
Again, it is super, super versatile. I had some for lunch with broccoli and a miso ginger dressing, and it was fabulous. Working on this cookbook has also expanded my appreciation of what tofu can do. I tend to like a really good, firm, extra firm, bouncy tofu. But the secret ingredient in my vegan key lime pie is silken tofu. It can have this whole range of textures. It can be very, very firm and meaty. And then it can be, when it's silken, it can be very creamy and whippy. So why deny yourself? Why don't you see what it can do?
Yeah.
And again, it soaks up flavors.
Yeah, I mean, they're two totally different types of products. So if you're shopping for silken tofu, tell everybody what they're looking for versus the extra firm that holds its shape, and because they're even packaged different ways.
Right. I'm trying to think. This is not a good description, but it can be kind of gushy in the package because it is that soft. Um, I'm trying to think. There's got to be it almost puddingy in
Yeah, I think
consistency.
that sounds right.
So yeah, and they are packed in water, both of them, and they keep better in water too. I'm sure there's a real good reason for it. I'm not sure if I could explain what it is. Um, but yeah, there's also a great Japanese dressing recipe that calls for silken tofu. It's very, very versatile.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really neat. And I'm sure a lot of the you can get a lot of good protein from tofu in either form, silken or the more bouncy, extra firm type like you liked. And I've noticed and I've seen applications for the firm tofu that people are actually you're able to crisp it up some. It can take on a nice brown color and then
Yeah.
used in a lot of entree type dishes where you would want to maybe, as you mentioned, make one of these small changes and start using more tofu in your cooking.
Absolutely. I really love tofu. I use it in a lot more recipes than I even realize.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think that any other ingredients that you would like to talk about, we've covered jackfruit, tempeh, tofu, aquafaba, evaporated cane sugar, nutritional yeast. We've talked about cashews.
Any weirdnesses? Tahini is
Yeah.
not necessarily um, associated with the South, but if you want to build some like really creamy, luscious flavor, that's a great one. I use it, I think, just like a dab of it in a couple recipes to make something super kind of creamy and luxe. It's really good that way.
Yeah.
And tahini also can vary by brand. There's a one I like. I bet you know it too. It's women owned. It's called Soom,
Hmm.
Soom, and it's. I mean, when it came out, someone said, "Oh, I want you to try this tahini." I've got a great Middle Eastern market near me. I don't need to. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's worth dabbling around with different brands of tahini and finding the one you like the best. Do they all separate like a natural peanut butter does?
I find this separates less. They do separate though. It's
Yeah.
sesame and
Yeah.
it's toasted sesame. So give it a stir like you would natural peanut butter. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Bring your senses to the kitchen.
100%.
Oh,
I
this
love
really annoys me. Did I tell you that Americans spend less time at the table and in the kitchen than any other nationality?
I'm not
Honeys, we can
surprised,
do
but yes.
better.
Yes, and this is and hopefully the people that are listening to the podcast uh, maybe are some outliers in that area, but I
I
think
know you are.
in general, I think that it's a probably pretty well known fact. You know, I said when I wrote my first cookbook, one of the reasons that I wrote Kentucky Fresh was because I was a private chef cooking privately for people in their homes. And I would go in these gorgeous homes with gorgeous kitchens. I mean, literally ovens that had never been turned on. And the reason I knew is because the instruction book was still in the oven.
Yeah, my mother was a little like
And
that.
I always thought that I grew up in a kitchen that was always used, and kitchens have more soul when they're used. And I would rather have an oven that I went to, and like you can just tell it's a place that is active. There's an active, alive cook in that kitchen. Now there are alive, active people in the homes, but there's something about a kitchen being used that just is to me like having a cat. And I love cats, so I'm saying this as a compliment. It's like having a cat in the house. It's soft. There's something that it brings to just the environment of the house. So you're preaching to the choir here with us, but we do need to talk about cooking, share our cookbooks, share ways that people can get into the kitchen, do easy things, because it is something that will add, it benefits everyone in a lot of ways. And I think it makes us healthier in a lot of ways, socially, economically, physically, it can make us healthier. And I could go on and on about that.
Girl, I got to tell you, a used kitchen has more soul in it. I think that is my new tattoo. I love that.
It does. It does. It does. Just imagine. I mean, and the woman that I was cooking for that particular day, I can even remember who she was. She has since passed away. She was a wonderful woman. I got to know her in a lot of different ways. She was very active in the community, but I was just like, what I was like shocked when I opened that oven to like the the brochure or the book wrapped in plastic was still in there, and I was just like, wow. And I'm pretty sure they had lived in the house for a while, and so
They
it
needed
does.
you.
Yeah, they did. And I certainly enjoyed cooking for them. And it was always fun because I got to see what people liked. I got to see the kinds of foods they enjoyed. A lot of times I would have a lot of liberty with the menu. They would maybe just give me some guardrails. And it was always fun to cook for people. And, simple things that have a lot of flavor. And reminds me of if people wanted plant-based, a lot of things that you have here in this book that I think it's the chopping sometimes that people just don't like for whatever reason. How do you feel about, I need to ask you this as a vegan, like standing and chopping and cutting things up and preparing the food before you actually cook it?
Well, so much of Indian and Asian cuisine is the sensibility you bring to the kitchen, the vibe, the soul. And I also find it very meditative. Am I good about sitting in the lotus position and, contemplating the universe? No. But I can kind of get into the zone when I chop. I love it.
Yeah. I think 100% agree. One of the things that I've noticed in your book, you mentioned sofrito, but there's also another type of flavor like base called choka. Is it choka?
It absolutely is.
Tell us about that and the role it plays in cooking Miami vegan.
That's more of it. It's Indian in origin, which of course jumped to the Caribbean. It's another flavor builder. It's a little more spice driven. It's sauteed vegetables with maybe some more warming spices like cumin and chili, and of course garlic because we love garlic. It's a little sofrito, it's a little salsa, and it's really great. I have let's see, kind of a composed salad that has a tomato choka. I've also seen eggplant chokas. It's kind of relishy. It's really, really good.
Yeah. What about the people that are listening that are thinking, I think I want to try some of these things, but I've often felt like a lot of these ingredients are expensive.
I'm cheap. My husband will tell you this. I think with a well-stocked pantry with like some basic spices, and I even give you some good ones to stock, like allspice, which is used in a lot of Latin and Caribbean recipes, and Middle Eastern too, so you'll get plenty of use out of it. Cumin, which is wonderfully funky. Olive oil, beans, whole grains, and rice. These have been foods that have sustained us for millennia, and they don't cost that much. A lot of processed vegan food can, but you don't have to have it. There are ways you can create this yourself for cheap.
Yeah. And I think that it's a trade-off. You do have to swap the ingredients in and out. But I think that stocking your pantry is an excellent way to think about it and knowing that you're going to be using the ingredients more than one time.
Yeah, I mean, I really try and make accessible ingredients. I don't have a quarter teaspoon of something you're going to have to drive across town for or order online. Use it. No, I want this food to resonate in your life and your dinner.
That's right. So if someone is thinking about, well, maybe making this transition over, working in different ingredients, what do you say to them about working with family and dietary differences, even among could be partners, spouses, and children?
I'm the only vegan in my family. So I can speak to this. I would have to say, to my family's credit, I did not get a lot of pushback. I got, oh, you're going to do this? You're going to cook, which was fine for me. And when I do go to a family gathering, I bring enough food so everyone can enjoy it. But some of the recipes I have, particularly some of the Latin ones, these aren't just what we're going to eat for dinner. These are dishes that bring families together, that they have at Christmas or that they have at any family gathering. So the idea that you're not going to make this with meat could really, some of my Latina girlfriends got pushback from their families because they wanted to go vegan. I try and keep the soul of the recipe and certainly the flavor and mouthfeel, but just without the meat so everyone can have it.
Right. Yeah, I
Food
think
isn't
that
just
in some of them, maybe these recipes and flavor profiles were perhaps meatless even to begin with.
right. Beans and rice have been like a backbone of so many cultures and cuisines. That we're eating so much meat now is a fairly recent development in humankind.
Mhm.
It has been like a little bit of a flavor ingredient until I'd say quite recently.
And what about when people are making this change and they want to go out to a restaurant to eat?
I just did a story on this for my newsletter, Broccoli Rising. We used to have so many more vegan restaurants, and like all restaurants, it is a tough business. So a few of them we've lost, but mainstream restaurants, even in Miami, which had been like Steakhouse Central, have now like woken up to the fact that vegans like to go out too. And most places have really innovative vegan options. And if you're worried, I always call a couple days ahead and say, "Hi, I'm coming on Saturday. Can your kitchen accommodate a vegan?" Give them a heads up. And, it's much better to do that than just show up at 9 o'clock on a Saturday and expect everyone to fall all over you.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of the time, I bet you get an affirmative answer.
At a recent Italian restaurant, saffron tagliatelle. Oh, come on. How can you say no to that? That was
Exactly.
fantastic.
Exactly. I think sometimes for some menus, restaurants that have a standard menu, like it's pretty much the same thing all the time. I think sometimes if someone calls ahead and says I'm vegan and I'm looking forward to coming to your restaurant, it kind of gives a little creative license to the chef to create something fun with what they have. And I think that if it's looked at in the right way, it could actually be an adventure and something that the chef enjoys doing.
It's true. I've gotten to meet some great chefs that way.
Yeah, yeah. Saffron tagliatelle sounds really good. Really good. Okay, so something I love to ask everybody as we're wrapping up is about cookbooks. Cookbook Love is a place where we discover cookbooks, talk about cookbooks, talk to cookbook authors, talk about cookbook writing. But we would love to know if you have a favorite cookbook that has influenced you in a major way over the years.
Okay, yes. And I'm going to have to give you a little backstory. When my husband and I were first married, we lived in Tokyo. And so I found this foreign bookstore that was on the other side of town, which meant I had to take 2 trains to get there. Foreign meaning that they had English language books. And I formed a friendship with the owner, who I think, like the second time I was there, she was looking through a gourmet magazine. This is obviously a while ago. And I said, "Wow, gourmet, I haven't seen that, since I've been here." She said, "Oh, take my copy." And she started saving her copies for me. And she also, and I think it was in one of those issues, I discovered Paula Walford, who is a seminal cookbook author of Middle Eastern cuisine and Moroccan cuisine. She's amazing. And so my favorite cookbook is one of hers, slow cooking Mediterranean kitchen recipes for passionate cooks. And my copy is so old, it's in tatters, Paula doesn't really do vegan, but she taught me so much about slow cooking techniques to build flavor and how food can reflect place. So I try and bring a little of that to Miami Vegan.
Yeah, wonderful. And food does reflect place. And in Miami Vegan, I haven't personally cooked anything out of the book yet, but you can just tell by reading the recipes, reading the head notes. It's an excellent book to engage with from a reading perspective for all my listeners that love to read cookbooks. And I think people would learn a lot from that and also from diving into some of the recipes. We've talked about several today, but there's many, many more. How many recipes are in your book?
My husband's the CPA. I'm not a hard counter. I think it's 88. So we say it's 80 plus.
Yeah. And the Miami Vegan Pantry is, just to mention this feature, it's not just a list, it's actually an explanation also of these ingredients, along with product sourcing and some 305 insider intel, Miami flavors and Miami favorites. And you have designated those as recipes that are really shaped by the produce and the spices, as well as the culture and the community of Miami. So a way to actually not just use the recipes, but dive into the ones that are truly Miami community and flavor focused.
I do love backstory. I think it makes food more delicious.
Yeah, 100%. I've always believed that, and having this podcast for as long as I have, and talking to as many cookbook authors as I've had, and seeing a lot of cookbooks come across my desk, the ones that have an engaged writer, engaged author, because not everybody's making a living writing, but engaged authors and a specific container with a lot of backstory really make the most interesting cookbooks, at least for me. And I think that a lot of people really appreciate all the work that you would have put into a book like this. And incidentally, you're also the author of another book called Feeding the Hungry Ghost, Life, Faith, and What to Eat for Dinner. So that was your first cookbook, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that book.
That was when I was Huffington Post Meatless Monday blogger, and I had a syndicated column in the Miami Herald. And, well, you would know because you've been doing this. When you write an article, you're very, very focused. And because you've got column inches that you've got to stick to, sometimes the best bits get left out. And so Feeding the Hungry Ghost kind of brought all the stuff I thought was really delicious and interesting together. And it's written seasonally. So yeah, I guess I always do tend to over-deliver. I wanted to give people a sense of, okay, you can cook this in this season. You can cook this in that season. It'll take you through a calendar year.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. I'll link to the book in my show notes, but I'd love for you to tell everybody the best way to connect with you online.
Oh, okay. My Substack is Broccoli Rising, because I do love vegetables. And my website is soulfulvegan.com.
Great. We'll link to those in the show notes. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I have enjoyed talking to you all about Miami Vegan, Ellen, and I hope that you continue to promote all this wonderful regional food and cooking that we have available to us, and wish you the best of luck with your book.
Maggie, this has been delicious. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. Again, all the links can be found in the show notes at www.cookbooklove.co. And if you are interested in writing a cookbook of your own, please check out the free cookbook writing masterclass called How to Get Paid to Write a Cookbook. It is designed specifically for food or nutrition experts, and you can check that out at www.cookbookwritersacademy.com/free. So that's it for today's episode of the Cookbook Love Podcast. This is your host, Maggie Green. And until next time, have a great day and keep loving your cookbooks.
Thanks for listening to the Cookbook Love Podcast. You can find out more information at www.cookbooklove.co.